if they want to learn or just honestly if they just want to hang out too. And I think that's all. The Flic is hasn't been around for very long, so we don't really have that much history. So I think we can move on to the core learning. So Khairul Anwar, you can explain if you want. Hello?
Okay. Hello. Good evening for all the participants and all the speaker. Glad to see you all and nice to meet you for the all my close friend or maybe all my friend in here. Thanks a lot for joining the online discussion. And I just want to say that we're gonna have like maybe 1.5 hours for the online discussion, and then I'm as participant for. I mean, I'm one of the committee from core learning. So core learning is one of the uh, online and face-to-face platform English about English one, and we are providing for kind of TOEFL and IELTS lesson, and then talk about the English for general one, and then sometimes we provide for proofreading and translation if you want to know more about the what's called about the text. And we already made this what's called this platform since like 2 months ago, just a new one, but the team helped me to like make kind of the online discussion with the people in here, I mean with the foreigner or maybe with what another speaker. And then we always try to help you to encourage you to speak in English, and then make sure for all the participants if you have any question, please don't be hesitant to ask and having conversation with the speaker. And then I hope you can enjoy the online one. And then there is like what's called chat room application. If you want to ask more, or maybe if you want to ask by text, just write on your message by application, and then if and the moderator will let you to speak up, and there will be time to you to ask about the question based on the material that the speaker will deliver to you all. Okay, I think it's enough for me. I just want to say hi and just enjoy the session, yeah. That's and I'm gonna say thank you for Oliver and Leo for giving the time and spending the time for preparing anything else like PPT or maybe the research about the material. Thanks a lot, and I'm so happy to meet you all in here. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I guess is it my turn to speak now, or?
Yeah, so that was the greeting from Mr. Khairul Anwar, or as he commonly referred to as Choi. So since it's finished, we can start. So if we could start by from Leo first, as he's Leo, one of our speakers, Leo. He's from great, geez. He is from London, UK. So if you want to start, it's yours. Time is yours. Sorry.
Okay. Of course. Is the PowerPoint going to be shared, or should I?
Give me a minute. All right. So
maybe I can introduce myself in the meantime. So hello,
sure.
everyone. My name is Leo. So I grew up in London, but I'm actually French. So I speak quite fast. So I will try to speak a bit slower this time. So I've been in London for about 18 years, and also went to the Midlands for university. And I've been to a few other places. So during my presentation, I will talk to you about the different geography of the UK, because a lot of the time we talk about London, but there are other cities and other places that are really nice. So I'm going to try and spread awareness about the other places. I will mostly focus on England because that is what I know best. But Scotland, Wales, and Ireland also exist. However, I will not talk about them too much. So I'm ready to start whenever. Thank you.
Right, give us a minute. Wait,
Sure thing.
Well, yeah, okay. Leo, this is your time to explain about your experience and also your stories and also the cultures in the United Kingdom. Well, guys, for your information, I am your moderator tonight.
Okay.
There's about the miscommunication between the MCs and also me as a moderator. So, Leo, you ready to prepare your own presentation to us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. Am I sharing the
your
screen now?
time, Leo.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I will do it this way then. So as you guys can see, this is a map of the UK. I will mostly focus on this area of England, but also this Scotland. What you need to know about Scotland is that it's cold and it's rainy and it's like England, but people are a little bit nicer, I would say. And then, so this is the geographical map of the UK, and here is the map of all the stereotypes of the UK. So London is the center of basically the whole of the UK and England because it's the economic center and this is where Parliament is, which is where all our government's decisions happen. Then if you go to the southeast area, this is where most of the rich people live in UK, at least historically speaking. The Cockney Exiles is just where you hear the funny accents in the movies from London, but not quite London. So not the posh one, but the other London accent. And then there's a lot of discussion in the England about where the north starts, because the north is where it gets cold and where it starts raining a lot, more than London. So if you're a Londoner, you think the north starts here, but in reality, the north starts even higher up. So depending on where you live, you might disagree on where the north starts. Down here in the southwest is West Country. So here there's a lot of apple, a lot of cider, and a lot of surfing. This is where the beaches are. And then above you have Wales, which is mostly empty and mountains and grey. And it's not the favorite part of the UK for anyone, but they're pretty good at rugby. So at least they have that. And that is mostly most of it. So I will go on to the next part and start talking about London. So as you see, London, economically speaking, is huge. It's got roughly the same GDP as Turkey. So you can tell that it has a lot of importance in the UK and it affects a lot of the political decisions of the country, not only because Parliament is there, but also because it is prioritized in any policy. So a few years ago, London flooded, and since then they have made a decision to protect London, and instead they flood nearby towns and cities, just because London is so much more important. And the way that London is able to be so rich is by its service sector. So a lot of banks and accountants and things like that are based in London. London is often the picture in the bottom right, which is the stereotypical touristy area. But there are also a lot of small streets and a lot of neighborhoods that are a lot more familiar. So the neighborhood I live in is a lot more like this, which is old houses and pubs, which Ollie will talk about more later, and a lot of local things happening. So London is not just the massive towers and skyscrapers. There's a lot more. And if you move to the further outside of London, it's almost like a small town. So this is just maps. Now I'm going to talk about the southeast, which is in the bottom right. So southeast, the most famous thing about it is the Dover cliffs, which are known for how wide they are. And then this is, and bottom right is Brighton. So Brighton is quite well known in the UK for being quite like for the hippies. They love music, they love having fun and going outside. They drink a lot because there's a lot of universities. And I think this is where the city in the UK where there are the most bars per student, per person, sorry. So if you want to have a good time, then Brighton is also a good opportunity. It's not just London. So because it's quite nice, it's quite warm. People go surfing there. They often live there and then move to work in London, but live on the outside because it's a lot cheaper. Next is going to be the southwest, West Country. So if you are to think about going to England, the two places I would recommend in this area to go to is Bristol, which is in the top right. It's slightly medieval as well, and it's really nice. They have quite a good university. However, it is really windy, so you have to be prepared for that. And the bottom left is Bath. So Bath is an old Roman town and was and it still is designed as if it was Roman. So a lot of the houses and the roads are covered in white marble. So it's a very aesthetic and nice to visit. And if you go there, you have to drink some cider because that is the specialty of that area because they grow a lot of apples. However, these areas are not very culturally diverse, so be prepared to just basically see white people, which is not the same as in London, for example. Next, I'm going to talk about the Midlands, which is, I think, is north. Not everyone agrees, and it's where I went to university. If you want to visit the UK, this is not the place I would recommend to go because it's, to be honest, it's quite ugly. During World War II, a lot of those places were bombed because it is where the industrial areas were. So a lot of the cars, the planes, and the equipment for war were built there, so it was a prime target for German bombing. So if you look at the bottom right, for example, this used to be a cathedral, but it burned down during the war, and now it's just the outside. And because a lot of it was destroyed, they rebuilt very fast. So they have a lot of concrete buildings and not very many monuments. So you can easily skip this area if you want to visit UK. However, it is very culturally diverse, and many people from different areas of the Commonwealth have moved there. So that is one of the positives of that area. So next, I'm going to talk about the north. So the north for us is anywhere above roughly this line. However, for most people, it can is this area, which is where some of the more famous cities are. So the most famous are Liverpool, which is you might know from the Beatles, because that is where they're from. So if you
Jesus
like the
Christ.
Beatles, then you have to go to Liverpool. There's also obviously London, where there's Abbey Road, but it's quite. I haven't been there myself, but I heard it's really nice. On the bottom right is Manchester. So Manchester is somewhere also nice to live. It's like London, but smaller and cheaper. And recently, it was voted the most livable city in the UK. So that means the work-to-life balance is very good. There's a lot of bars. It's very known for its music industry. They have a lot of talent coming out of this city. So if this is the kind of things that you like, then I would recommend for you to go there. However, it is a lot colder than Indonesia, and it rains about every 2 days, so you have to be prepared for that. So this is mostly the things I wanted to cover. Scotland is basically just full of English people, but more drunk, and the islands they just speak in different accents. But I do not know these places much, so I would not cover them as well. I don't know how much time I took for that, but I'm ready to take any questions if anyone has any.
Well, okay. Thank you so much, Leo, for your explanation about some of the amazing regions in the United Kingdom. So, guys, if you have any questions to Leo tonight, please give your question in the text in the chat section of this online discussion. So your questions will be awaited for us because this is one of the very amazing experiences to us to learn about the British cultures. Okay, maybe okay, my this is also a question from my friends. So in the United Kingdom, that's also about the cultures, or it is like the habit, not the habit, but the cultures of warm charming. So have you ever heard about the warm charming before?
The warm, charming culture, like the people.
Uh,
Uh, yes. So compared to Indonesia, we are nowhere near as charming as you guys. But compared to Europeans, we can say that they are warmer and they are more charming. Maybe not as much in the city of London because that is where people work. But for example, compared to French people, because I'm French, so I know this, it's a lot easier to chat to someone in the streets in England. They're going to be a lot friendlier. And the place where you find the friendliest people would be in social gatherings. So if you go to a pub, you can start a conversation with anyone, and they would try and joke around with you. And something famous in the UK is called banter, which it's not that well known, but it's basically joking around and taking the mickey a little bit. So laughing at the person, but also with them, and that is quite common. So if you ever come to UK and someone seems rude and they laugh, it could be a friendly gesture. It doesn't have to be rude.
oh, okay. So you explained to us, to show to us about the differences of the region in the United Kingdom. So, like in
Mm-hmm.
Indonesia, we have thousands island here. So there are so many differences in the cultures and also language. So, what are the most significant differences between each region in the United Kingdom?
I think the most significant differences would be the eating habits.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, in the north, they put gravy on the chips, which a lot of us think is not very nice. But
Oh,
other than that, it comes mostly from the cities themselves, and I would say the cultural diversity coming from them. And so, for example, London is very multicultural. So we're a lot more open-minded. But for example, in the north, it's less multicultural and it's more traditional. So people are a bit
mm.
more closed off. So that is something that you can expect. But otherwise, it is quite similar overall, at least in the mindset.
Oh, okay. Okay, the next is the questions from Andini. So, Leo, this is the question for you. she wants to know about London. What do you think about London? And is there any interesting culture there?
So, I grew up in London and I absolutely love it. It's probably my favorite city in the world. The one thing to remember in London is that because it's so big and very diverse, um, if you just go there on holiday, you cannot know. But the longer you live there, the more you love London. And in terms of culture, there's literally cultures from all over the world. So in one road, you can, go to an English pub, then you can have an Indian curry, then you can have, some Pakistani drink, and then you have everything in London. So then you also have hipsters, you have artists, you have serious people, you can literally live your entire life in London and still not know everything about London. I still have only visited maybe half, and I've been there for almost 20 years, but it's amazing.
Okay. In London, well, that's one of the very interesting places around the world in London. And if I want to visit in London, so what is the best recommendation for you, for
Mm.
me, if I want to visit in London for the first time?
So obviously, I was not talk about the tourist things because these are like famous. So obviously, I think you should spend a day in the center to see all the touristic things and take pictures. But I would also recommend doing things that are not as famous. So things that I really like to do is going to a place called Camden and the Camden Market. So it's still quite well known, but not as much. And it's a very open-minded area of London. So there's a lot of graffiti on the wall. There are a lot of small shops with vintage clothing, and it's a very, avant-garde almost. Like it's the very modern in terms of mindset. Also, I would recommend to go to some place in the center that is not in the center of London. So, for example, Wimbledon, which is famous for its tennis, has a lovely village, parks, and pubs like that. So, if you want to have an idea of what a day-to-day life is in London, Wimbledon is a nice area to both visit and have a better idea of what in London is actually like.
Wow, this is really interesting. I want to visit London. Maybe if I want to study abroad and also I want to continue my study in London, hopefully
Hmm.
it will be realized in my future. So
Yeah, it'd be
going for the
amazing.
next questions. Okay, the question from Flat. His question is football. Okay, football is one of the biggest sports in the United Kingdom. So do you think everyone in the United Kingdom has a favorite football team?
Mhm.
And what about yours?
Okay, so in UK we do love football. However, something to know is in Ireland, Wales, and maybe Scotland, they prefer their own sports. So in Wales, their favorite sport is definitely rugby. In Ireland, it's Gaelish sports. So they're not famous at all. They have Gaelish football, which is like rugby and football, and they also have a game which is very similar to hockey. So they don't like football as much. For Scotland, they don't like football as much as well. But in England, it is definitely huge. However, coming from the 2012 Olympics, where London was host, a lot of money was spent on pretty much every single sport. So you have a lot of choice, and it's not just football. Even though football is the favorite sport, it is not everyone's favorite sport. So, for example, Oliver and I, we both prefer rugby, so I don't think Ollie has a favorite football team. I do. My favorite football team is Arsenal, but just because they have a lot of French players. But right now they're playing horrendous. So don't quote me on having Arsenal as my favorite team.
Okay, maybe for some people in Indonesia like to watch about the football sport in the United Kingdom, but for me, the most favorite sport in the United Kingdom and also very popular in the United Kingdom is maybe badminton because uh, do you know about the All England Championship?
No, we don't
Oh,
play. I mean, personally, I haven't seen a lot of badminton.
oh, okay. I think because All England is one of the oldest one um, of the championship for the badminton from the British people. So I think it is really popular. Before the Olympic Games was started, the All England has started when all of the people can play badminton and also winning a very prestigious trophy of of the World Badminton Championships. So and then the next question is from our friends again. She asked to you about the tradition of tea time. tea time or the afternoon tea. So can you explain to us about what is the tea time tradition?
So this might have changed over time, but I've heard a lot of time, for example, that 4 o'clock is tea time.
Mhm.
This is not as true anymore. Maybe in the richer and posher families, they do enjoy afternoon tea. So afternoon tea, which is what you would probably call tea time, is just when you sit at a cafe, often by a river or like somewhere really nice, and you have tea, and you have a lot of like small sandwiches, cupcakes, and but everything's like really small because it's supposed to be like a snack. So that is more like an event, you know, same way we like you might go to the pub or restaurant, you go to afternoon tea, and it's an opportunity to spend 1 or 2 hours just sitting down and relaxing. The other way that British people take tea is anytime. It's a very like moral thing. So you know, if you're sad, you drink tea. If you're happy, you drink tea. If you haven't seen a friend in a long time, you drink tea. If it's cold, you drink tea. If it's hot, you drink tea. Like we just always drink tea at any time. But afternoon tea is the actual event.
Okay. So there's a lot of the questions from for you, Leo. We go to the next.
Sure thing.
Okay, from Mr. Choi. Let me know, Leo. How do the people manage the time when they have tons of schedules? Due to the time is the important for them, and the situation is super hectic. So how you can manage the time? Because almost all of the United Kingdom people are is just like always on time when they want to do something. So can you explain about those things?
So I think it's so cultural. Like the same way we like to have a queue for everything. So when you take the bus, there's always a queue, for example, and same on the tube. There's always a queue. People like things to be very clean and sharp in the UK. So to be on, okay, we are not always on time, even though we are more on time than Indonesian people. I'm sorry, it's just the way we like to do things. Um, I think we just organize and we're used to being in a hurry. So I think it's just practice and we know where to go at what time. So, for example, if you want to go to central London, unless you have to, you don't want to go at 9 a.m., between 8 and 9 a.m., or between 5 and 6 p.m., because that's when rush hour is and you know it would be awful to go there.
Okay. So and then wow, I think that's a lot of the questions again. So have you ever
Mhm.
heard about the Cooper's Hill cheese rolling?
The what, sorry?
Cooper's Hill cheese rolling.
Cheese rolling.
Uh,
Oh yes, it's not something that like we see all the time, but it's a annual event, and they do it, and every time it happens, it goes on the news because I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube. It's basically a tradition where you take a bit of cheese and you roll it down the hill, but it's like a really steep hill, and then people always fall. So even though it's not like, oh yes, it's this time of year again, I'm so excited. It's more like, oh, this happened again. It's quite funny, but yes, I have heard of it.
okay. And then the next question is from Daliful. The question from
Mhm.
Daliful is, how about habit for hang out in the coffee shop? Is it common there? Because in here the coffee shops are full of the youngsters, and that's a very perfect place to hang out with our friends. So how about the coffee shop of in United?
So I will talk only a little bit about this because I think Oli will talk about it more.
Oh, okay.
But we do not talk as much about we do not talk we don't go to coffee shops as much when we're younger. We prefer the park and then the pub. But I will stop there because Oli will give you a lot more details later on.
Okay. And then the question from Eva is about, okay, what are the most popular traditions in the United Kingdom? And then are there any celebrations yearly that all people in the United Kingdom have to commemorate? What are they? And can you explain more details about us about that?
Okay, so I don't know if there are traditions as much, but we always go to the pub. Like that is, if you're British, that is your favorite place in the world. Everyone has their favorite pub, and so that's probably the tradition. It's not a regular thing, but we do go there. Um, we also like on Boxing Day, so the day after Christmas, there is a big meal, a little bit like the American Thanksgiving, but the English version.
Mhm.
And also Sunday roast is not done by everyone, but a lot of traditional families like on Sunday to have a roast with a gravy and the potatoes and Yorkshire pudding. So I really like Yorkshire puddings as well. But apart from that, we do not. I don't think we have that many traditions. But Ollie can maybe add something when it's his turn because he knows a lot more about the traditions.
Okay. So, and then how about the fanatism of the football in the United Kingdom as one of the best league in the world? So, the fanatism of the football in the United Kingdom. Can you explain about the fanatism of the football lovers in the United Kingdom?
Oh, it's crazy. Like before you said, not everyone has a football team, but a lot of people do have a football team, and it is one of the favorite subjects of conversation. So and people when they like their team, they really like it. So you can easily see your friends argue for 1 hour, saying that the other team is rubbish, but no, your team's rubbish, etc. So it is a very hot topic, and actually, if you go to an area where there's a stadium during a football match, there will be a lot of traffic because the stadiums are always full.
Yes. So, and then what are the historical sites you can advise to us if we want to visit in the United Kingdom?
Ooh, I think that's a bit difficult because a lot of them are in the cities, I think. So if you want to visit something historical, you might as well also visit the city, and it depends a lot. Um, Yeah, I don't know if there is like one or not to go to. So I'm sorry I can't advise you much, but I think you will learn a lot more about the cities, especially because we have a lot of museums. So if you want to learn about the history, there's many opportunities, and the museums can be very specific, especially in London. A lot of them are free as well. So that's the best answer I can give you. Sorry.
Okay, thank you so much. So, and then we have two questions again, Leo.
Mhm.
And this question is from Adam. This question is, some people want to know how to study abroad in the United Kingdom. So please give us more information about the environment in the public area and also at the university itself.
If people want to study in UK,
Mhm.
okay. So in UK, it depends on which university you go to. They can vary a lot. So I would advise you to do your research before that. I would also advise you to consider the weather because I live in London, so you think it's rainy. But if you go to the north, it's even rainier than that. So even I found it difficult because it wasn't very sunny and it can have an effect on your mood. So if rain affects your mood, try to stay in the south. I think that's quite important for your mental health. Otherwise, people tend to be quite welcoming, but there can be a lot of bubbles. So wherever you go in the UK, I would advise whichever university, I would advise you to join sports clubs and societies because that is the best way to make friends.
Uh-huh.
And then if you like to go out, drinking and things like that, then wherever you go, that's okay. You will always find people who want to do that. If you do not want to do that, that is also okay because universities are becoming aware that not everyone drinks. So they will also organize activities for you to join in. But other than that, I would say do your research because universities can be very different. But like it's a very good place. I think everyone in the UK enjoys going to university, as far as I know.
Okay. So, and then Miss Sahra and also Miss Judith want to ask us some questions to you
Mhm.
directly with this online discussion in the Zoom application. So, Miss Sahra and also Miss Judith, can you giving your questions to Leo right now? Maybe the operator should open the mic for Miss Sahra and Miss Judith. Miss Judith.
So, okay, thank you for the time. I would like to ask a question from for
Mhm.
Leo. And as you said before, Leo, that people in Scotland speak with a different accent, right? But
Yes.
on the other hand, Scotland has many beautiful sites. And the question is, if we want to visit Scotland, what should we prepare so we will not getting lost?
Okay. So if you visit Scotland, I would first advise you to bring a raincoat because it is very windy and very rainy. So you have to be prepared for that. I would advise you to go to Edinburgh, of course, because it's a very lovely city. There's a huge castle on like almost like a mountain. That's what it looks like, and the streets are very nice. There are also a lot of castles in Scotland, so you have your choice of that. I haven't been too much of Scotland, but I also went to St Andrews. There's a university there, and it's really old, and the whole town is medieval. So if you want to see something of a medieval town, I think it's really lovely to visit. I would also bring hiking shoes because Scotland is, as you said, famous for its nature. So there's a lot of beautiful sights and landscape, and I know that a lot of people who go to Scotland do so to go hiking. So you definitely have to bring hiking boots and a raincoat if you go there.
Okay, Miss Judith, that's all about your questions. Okay, thank you so much. So, and then the next question is coming from G. G's question is, okay, have you ever go pub crawling, or if you
Oh
do,
no.
got any amusing story about it?
Okay, so this is similar to the other university question. Pub crawling is very popular, especially in your sports and social teams. They will always advise, they always organize things. So I've been to many pub crawls. I do not want to embarrass myself too much, but I would tell some stories about some things. I can tell you some university stories if you want. Um, so one thing that we often do is called something called pub golf or pub bingo. So every place you go to, you have to do a challenge, and then you win points. So, for example, you can ask a stranger to take a selfie with you. You have to do a human pyramid. You have to like eat an onion. You have to drink quite a lot, or you have to do a few of things that are not so nice. And obviously, when you start drinking quite a lot of people do things that they wouldn't do sober. I'm not sure. I don't want to be rude on this podcast. I'm not sure what stories I can tell without going too far, but I've heard stories of, like, for example, friends who like had to share, for example, a sleeping bag with a homeless person because they were too drunk to go home and it was really cold in winter. So they just slept on a cardboard box next to someone they didn't know, and they shared the blanket, for example, which is probably not something they chose to do.
That's really interesting about pub crawling. So, how about the questions from Tika? It's about the Pearly Kings and Queen. Have you ever heard about that?
About
Pearly,
what? Sorry.
Pearly Kings and Queen.
So you cut out.
Okay. It's about the tradition in the United Kingdom. It is called as the Pearly Kings and Queen. Have you ever heard about that?
Um, I don't think I have. No, sorry.
Hmm.
So
Maybe Ollie has.
I have if you want to
Hmm.
answer you want me to answer that
Oh, okay.
question.
Yes.
Okay.
So the pearly kings and queens are cockneys, which are uh, so London itself is split into four different sections,
Mhm.
which is north, east, south, and west. And traditionally, that sort of the film accent, like "Hello, governor," sweep your chimney and all that sort of stuff, is people from the east side of London,
Uh-huh.
and uh, they used to dress up in very bright, colourful clothes with pearls and white sort of baubles on them and stuff like that, and they were known as the Pearly Kings and Queens of London. But
Oh, and
it's a
Queen.
very obscure, small, random tradition that nobody really knows about unless you're from those areas in London. It's not a thing anymore, really.
Mhm. Okay. So
Is the
Pearly
answer to the question.
and
Thank,
Queen. Yeah, yeah, that's one
thank you,
of
Ollie.
the tradition. And I also heard a question of my friends, and they want to know more about the Pearly and Queen. And okay, guys, you have any question again from Leo tonight? Our first speaker. Okay, again, this the questions from Zahra. Miss Zahra. Miss Zahra's question is about, okay, I live in Birmingham for 6 years for my early primary days. Attending this event makes me remember those time I spent. I believed I witnessed Manchester City, and I believe I witnessed Manchester City on its most glorious days with Owen. How's UK now? How about UK nowadays? And without football, how are you enjoying your days, Leo?
So firstly, I'm sorry I said something bad about the Midlands because this is where Birmingham is,
Uh-oh.
and I actually went to university near Birmingham, so I'm glad that we have something we can share. It's not the most beautiful city, but I think it has a lot of character, and so I'm glad that you also know about this part of England, and that is really nice. Um, I think it was Manchester United that had Owens, and they're not as good anymore now. And UK nowadays, without football, I think that's also a question for Ollie because currently I'm not in England, and with the Corona, I was not in England. But Ollie told me that it was very warm, and there were a lot of rules and a lot of annoying things happening in the UK, and people finding it difficult to keep social distancing. But I think tin cans of alcohol helped us get through the Corona. If I have to be honest. Yeah, Ollie's smiling. Definitely true.
Okay. Then talk about, okay, and then the next question is from Randy. Okay, Randy's question is, what is the most popular culture in the United Kingdom? How you can celebrate the most popular culture in the United Kingdom? Okay, how about the most popular tradition of culture out there?
I don't think that is something that you can do, just because it's especially like being from London is so diverse, and there are so many things you can do. You have so many choices. There are so many bubbles that you can just choose, and there's always for whatever you want to do, there will always be a choice. So for example, the Petty Kings and Queens, I've never heard of them, but Ollie did, and it seems to me very specific and almost bizarre. And that can be said for everything in London and the UK. So you can't have a best one. There's just so many. So it depends on what you prefer. Maybe you can research because some areas are more known for certain things than others. So depending on your personal preferences, I would advise you to research it yourself because it's impossible to say which one is best.
Mhm. Okay, so I heard that in the United Kingdom, we should to be really adaptable with the season in the United Kingdoms. Like you know that in Indonesia we only have two seasons, but it's
Hmm.
different in the United Kingdom. So how, as the Asian people, especially for us as the Indonesians, to be adaptable if you want to study out there, or if you want to work in the United Kingdom with the differences of the season between Indonesia and also between the UK. Can you giving the advisement for us?
Um, I don't know if there's any like hack or anything you can do. I think you just have to get used to it. Personally, I really like it because for me Indonesia was way too hot. And I actually like the rain because it's refreshing. Important to know, it rains often in UK, but it doesn't rain a lot. So when it rains, it's often like spits, so very small drops of water. So you don't need an umbrella always, but you just need to get used to being a bit wet most of the time. If the weather bothers you, stay down the south. Don't go north because the north is even worse. And yeah, I'm not sure how to adapt it. Just bring a big coat for winter because sometimes it does snow. So if you want to see snow, it's not a promise. It doesn't happen every year, but sometimes it does. So there you go.
Okay, and then the Miss Zahra's question again is about what is the most popular Britain Britpop, and also, yeah, so what is the most popular Britpop band today? Today.
I'm not really sure. I mean, it changes so much, especially because in the UK we have like obviously the pop bands and things like that, so the international artists. But something else that we really like to celebrate is what we call the underground scene. So there's a lot of like things in the background. There's a lot of small musicians and artists, especially in London and Manchester. They are very famous for having their own music style and creating new ones and having many small artists that become famous later on. And there's the music I listen to, so it's a lot more EDM, but it's yeah, it's quite. I don't have an answer for that. Sorry.
Well, okay, okay, guys. So the time for the Q&A session was finished for tonight. And thank you so much for the participations for all of you
Thank you
guys who
guys.
are giving your own questions to Leo's sessions tonight. And And thank you so much, Leo, for your new knowledge for us, and absolutely a lot of the very amazing inspirations and also informations that you have given to us tonight. And hopefully, if we want to study abroad in the UK, at least we have a little bit information from the Leo's explanations tonight. So the conclusion from the Leo's explanation is UK is really diverse. They have a lot of the different regions in the United Kingdom with cultures and also with a lot of the very amazing places out there. So guys, if you want to visit in the United Kingdom, don't forget to contact Leo through Miss Koirul Anwar tonight. Well,
There
thank
you
you
go.
so much, Leo, for your
Thank
time.
you, guys. Thank you for the questions.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. Okay, guys, we go to our next speakers. We still stay in the United Kingdom tonight, and our second speaker is
Excuse
really
me, before we
amazing.
continue.
If you want to talk about the
Excuse
cultures,
me.
if you want to talk about the
To go.
very unique and also interesting habits in the United Kingdom,
Christ, still
maybe
on
you can
tangent, isn't he?
to the Oliver Watson tonight as our second speakers.
All
So,
right.
can we ask Oliver Watson for giving his explanations tonight?
Sorry. So
Okay,
before we
okay. Oh,
continue,
well, Aji.
we have the photo session for a bit. So
Okay, photo session. Okay. We forgot about the photo session first. So guys,
so
as
if
the participants tonight, please open your video, open your camera because we want to take about the photo session. Okay. Tonight, please open your video, open your camera. Already, guys. Okay. Aji, can you start the photo session? It's
sure.
loading.
Let me just do some stuff.
Screenshot or print screen your PC tonight. Save it. Smile, guys.
So let me just take a few and then. Okay, one more. Give me a minute.
Okay.
And done. All right, thank you. You can
Thank you
go.
so much,
Go
Matt.
on.
Thank you so much, Leo. So, okay, guys, like I told you before, we go to the next session, and this is the next session will be continued by our next, by our next rated speakers tonight. So, Oliver Watson, this is the time for you to give about your explanation about the British cultures and a lot of the unique and interesting thing in the United Kingdom. So, Oliver, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
I think Choi's got the PowerPoint. I don't know how to do the screen sharing thing with that Leo did. I think Choi's
yeah.
got it.
Yeah. Oliver already give the PPT to the moderator and what's called to MC. So can you help me to upload the PPT because I already give to you all, or maybe let me.
What's
So
that, mate?
Mas Aji.
Me? All right, sure.
Yep.
Let me just give me a minute. Just let me open it. Let me search for it. I forgot where I saved it. Give me a minute. Mhm. Let me just. Oh, give me a minute. Sorry, this is a bit. I completely forgot where I saved it.
We can do it without it if it's easier.
Don't worry. I think I remember where is it. All right. Oh no, I remember. Let me just move it first because Christ, the folder is rather messy. All right, I got it.
Okay, nice.
Well, all right, that's interesting first slide. It's been years since I played Skyrim.
Oh, Skyrim. Good times.
Wow.
Right. So can you see it?
Okay.
Yep, we can
Yep.
see it.
Sorry,
Yep.
I can't enter the slideshow mode. Otherwise, it'll just go bust. I don't know, for some
Yep.
reason Microsoft always does that. Anyway, go if you want to start.
Yeah, sure. So the reason I've got this first picture up is because it's from the game Skyrim, but it's the best picture I could find of like a medieval tavern. So a large part of British culture is, as Leo sort of hinted at, is drinking and getting drunk in pubs and and stuff like that. So we've been doing it since, as the slide sort of indicates, since the medieval times, since way thousands of years ago. We, hundreds, and we were getting drunk when we were knights in the Middle Ages and stuff like that. And it's continued on into modern British society in so many ways. As Leo said, it's sort of like, if you want something to do with your friends, you'll probably say, let's go to the park, let's go to the pub. But it's something that's important throughout British life, in as such as there's like, so if you could go on to the next slide, please. So that's a pretty common British image there of teenagers hanging out in the park, just drinking alcohol and chatting and talking. That's sort of what we do instead of going to the coffee shops. You tend to just meet up with your friends, because the legal drinking age in the UK is 18. But you can buy alcohol, you can get alcohol before that. And so you tend to go to the park and hang out with your friends and just sort of get drunk and tell each other funny stories and hang out. And it tends to be where a lot of culture sort of comes together, because as Leo said, England's very multicultural, and it's such a melting pot of people's different cultures and identities and rules. But one thing that's universal throughout England and its culture is drinking together. So it's I think religion is more of a thing in Indonesia. You guys come together, you pray, and you talk, and you go to church together, or mosque, or whatever you do, and you go to coffee shops and talk. We tend to get together in pubs and bars and drinks and just chat to each other like that. And it goes throughout your adult life. So you start as kids, you start in the park and you do that. And then as you get a bit older, as the next slide shows, you'll probably go to the pub. And you can see there's people of different races, different ages, different sexes, different heights. It's very much a universal center for people to gather together. So I would say, to experience true sort of British culture, you really need to head out to a local pub or club, or go and buy some alcohol from the supermarket and hang out with some people in like the park, or just wherever really. But it sort of loosens people up. British society is very uptight, very polite, and it's not rule based, but there's a lot of, you'll only understand how British society works if you spend time there. It's not something you can really explain, but alcohol tends to get people to be a bit looser. It's sort of been a unifying thing throughout the ages, because Britain is very class based. I'm sorry if I'm talking too fast. I'm just reeling it off.
Don't worry about it.
But there tends to be it's something that I didn't really find in Indonesia, was that we tend to have a working class, a middle class, and an upper class. And the working class and the middle class make up 99% of Britain. And so it's quite a working class thing and a middle class thing to go to the pub. And chill out together and hang out and discuss, and it sort of breaks down those cultural barriers. Alcohol loosens people's tongues, gets them talking. You know, a lawyer might talk to a builder, or a chef might talk to, you know, an electrician. People from every walk of life sort of come together and talk and meld in this sort of great British melting pot that is the London pub or the English pub. And yeah, it's a very important part of our culture. And so the next slide, this is something again that I didn't find in Indonesia, was nightclubs. So people will go from the pub once they've got alcohol, they're drunk, they're quite happy, and they'll go to the nightclub with their friends, which is a dark room with loud music, basically. And you all just go there and dance, really, and chat, and that's another great place to experience sort of a lot of cool things about British culture, because they tend to be in quite cosmopolitan areas. I don't know, posh areas, nightclubs. You tend to sort of go there. There's lots of flashing lights. It's a very sensory experience, and I would say that that's a great thing to do, because it didn't seem you'd have that many nightclubs in Indonesia. So that would be something that I would go and experience if you're going to England for the first time. I think you can skip the next slide. I think it's if you could go to the last one, that would be great. So yeah, that one. So the final sort of aspect of it is British people tend to also have like dinner parties. You'd invite your friends round for a meal and some drinks. And again, as you can see there, you know, this is just a stock image of Google, but you get people from all different cultures and backgrounds and walks of life doing whatever, coming together in one place and talking and sharing experiences and talking about like things like music and history and culture. If you want to sort of learn about England, the best thing to do is to go into a pub or invite someone around to your house for some drinks, or go into the park and have some drinks with them, and just have a drink with them and talk about what you want to talk about, what you want to know. You know, ask them questions like we're doing on this seminar, and just sort of, it's the one thing that every British person sort of says yes to, is you say, should we go to the pub? Should we go for a drink? Should we go and meet up and chat? And that really helps. But it's not just, I want to make this clear, it's not just about getting drunk and sort of drinking alcohol, because I know that that's not quite as much of a thing over there for you guys. It's more about the social aspect of it. You can sit in a pub and drink, you know, a Coca-Cola or a lemonade or whatever, but people tend to relax a lot more in these sort of settings. It's a very good place to sort of sit down with people and just get to know them a lot better. That's all I had prepared, but I'm willing to take questions now if that's what the next segment is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all, Oliver, about your explanation about the unique thing in the British cultures for us.
Cheers.
So okay.
Yep.
So we go to our Q&A session for Oliver's questions tonight. So the question coming from Flic. So actually, Indonesians do have nightclubs, especially in the big cities, but I've never been.
Okay. Oh, right. I totally would. You know, I never went to any, but it's good to know that you guys do have them, and it's something that you enjoy doing. It wasn't a large drinking culture I found when I went there. You guys were more interested in talking to each other and sort of hanging out. Is it a big city thing for you guys then? Is it going to nightclubs?
Yes. Okay.
It doesn't really happen now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, can I add something? Like, most of the nightclubs are in big cities, so the people you find there is probably going to be the stuffy upper class. So just be mindful; they're a bit unique, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we go to the next question. So the question is from Rani. The Rani's questions is, do you ever heard? Okay, what do you know? What do you think about Mayor of High Wycombe? What what is that? And can you explain to us about that? Mayor of High Wycombe.
The mayor of High Wycombe. So I think that uh, High Wycombe is an area in either England or London. It's a geographical location. I don't know anything about the mayor of Wycombe, but maybe he was in the news or something like that. I'm afraid I don't know what that question's about.
Okay, and then the next question is coming from Miss Kusno. Okay, Miss Kusno, can this is the time to speak up with Oliver tonight.
Hello, Oliver.
Hello.
Hi, I want to ask you. This is something, how can I say, really special actually. As you know, when you come to Indonesia, visit to Indonesia, drinking is something that not to be a habit actually in Indonesia.
Yeah.
How you feel about that? You know, you have habit that drinking is just like a usual habit, and then you come to Indonesia, and you know it's very quite difficult to find people drinking in public area in Indonesia. How you feel about it?
Personally, I found it to be refreshing. I found it to be a nice change from what I'm used to, because I feel like you experience quite a bit more of life in Indonesia. I would feel personally that you go places with your friends instead of going to the pub. Don't get me wrong, I love it as part of my culture, but it was nice to come to Indonesia and sort of people would say, why don't we go to a coffee shop? Why don't we go on a hike? You know, why don't we go somewhere else and do an activity? And I thought that was really nice. I thought it was a good change for me. It's not something I'd want to do long term. I do enjoy going to the pub and drinking with my friends, but yeah, no, I really enjoyed it when I was in Indonesia.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Kusnu, for the question. So, and then the next question is coming from Rani's again, from Rani questions. Do you know about the World Gurning Championship?
The World what championship?
The World Gurning Championship. The World
Gurning champ.
Mhm.
I think gurning is churning. Is it butter or something? Isn't it? Is that I don't know anything about that. I'm afraid that's again. It's quite a lot of things in England that you'll discover on the internet or you'll discover sort of in the news or whatever that are only known about to the people in that area. It's a very sort of regional specific thing.
I think I know. Sorry, I'm gonna step in. I think I've heard of gurning. It's when you make the city faces and things like that. It's competition,
Okay.
and it's quite similar to the cheese voting. They both started during the medieval ages, and I think it's just one of the traditions, as I said, that was continued in like a small regional area. So it's not a
Yeah.
common thing, but it might appear on the news when the like national event happens. It might appear on the news for like 2 minutes to entertain people, but it's not
Right.
something we do like every weekend.
Oh,
No. A lot of the thank you, Leo. A lot of the stuff that you'll hear about like that is very specific to the people who do it. So there'll be people who are interested in gurning, which is apparently making faces. I didn't know that was what it was, but thank you for stepping in there and filling in the gap in the knowledge. So yeah, I don't know anything about it myself, but that's what it is apparently.
okay. Thank you so much. So, and then the next question is coming from Adam. Adam question is, hello, Oliver. I am very interested about the cultural in the United Kingdom. So, does the foreigner can mix easily with the community?
Sorry, can you just say the last bit again?
Okay. Does the foreigner can mix with the community? It means is easy to have a communication and also easy to do something with the community in the United Kingdom.
it very much depends on where you are. I would say it's sort of like it's sort of like there's areas where in London and England and UK and Scotland and everywhere in the country that are a lot friendlier, and there are places that are a lot less friendly. So somewhere like London, it's very easy to get along with the community because everyone's from such a different, varied mix of backgrounds that everyone just sort of hangs out together and is fine with it. But if you went somewhere, for example, like a town just outside of London in Kent, or in the Midlands, like Leo was saying, you may not get along quite as easily with the community because they can be quite sheltered, and it can be quite a specific area. So I would say in the cities like London, Manchester, Birmingham, you don't have to go far to find people that you can hang out with and chat to and communicate with. But if you're in sort of more of the countryside, you lose it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. And I also ever watched in the YouTube about the tradition of the wife carrying. It's so funny. So can you explain why the British people also have a tradition of the wife carrying?
Okay, yeah. So I think across the UK, these things like cheese rolling, wife carrying, gurning competitions, they sort of spring up in areas that there tends to be not a lot to do. So sort of the countryside, people tend to sort of just come up with fun things to do, and it becomes a tradition. We're very fond of traditions in England, and once you've done something for long enough, you'll do it just because it's something that's been done for a while. So there's no particular reason that people would sort of pick their wives up and run with them in a race, other than the fact that it's happened before, so let's do it again. It's people just find it funny and do it again. It's not a
Well, actually, I don't have a wife, so maybe if I have, maybe if I want to take my wife to the United Kingdom, I want to join the wife carrying. It's really interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they'll let you. I'd say if you just sign yourself up and say, "Oh, I want to carry my wife," then they'll let you do it.
Okay, so and then how about the Morris dance? Morris dance.
Okay, the Morris dance it's a tradition of England, and it's a very sort of funny, silly dance that is, for some reason, I don't understand it myself, is for some reason traditional, and people like to do it. So you wear a fancy costume. It's usually very bright coloured and puffy. Sort of the material is very puffy, and you've got bells attached to you, and you tend to sort of dance around, and it looks like it's random. It looks sort of like they're not doing it on purpose, but it is actually very choreographed, and it's like a traditional dance in England that they'll have practiced over and over and over. But it's just a funny thing to look at, to be honest with you. We do a lot of things in England simply because they're funny, simply because we want to see what happens. It's just a joke, really.
Okay. So can you find about some of the similarities between the Indonesian cultures and also between the British cultures? Because I want to know about that.
Okay, similarities, yeah. So in general, both societies seem very polite. You guys probably have a bit of an edge on that, to be honest with you. You're even nicer than we are. There tends to be, I'd say we're both quite structured societies. I'd say people know sort of their roles and their position in society and what they're going to do. And I think the family dynamic is very important. Family seems very important to you guys over there. Family is also very important to England. I'd say that's definitely you guys like to meet in social groups. You don't tend to be. I think that people are always up for sort of getting together and having a chat and socialising. That's definitely a similarity in England. Trying to think of other ones. Leo, you got anything?
Okay. So, Miss Judith have the question. Okay, Miss Judith, do you want to ask a question to Oliver directly to using the Zoom application? Maybe, Miss Judith, can you can speak up right now?
Okay, thank you, Teguh.
Okay.
So, hi, Oliver.
Hello.
So I have a question for you. Do English people like to drink coffee other than beer? And if yes, what kind of coffee that British people like the most? That's the question.
Okay. Personally, I don't drink coffee, so I don't know what the favorite type is. But yeah, people do like to drink coffee. It's funnily enough, Leo mentioned it. Scotland, Edinburgh particularly, and also the Midlands, people tend to drink coffee a lot more. They're quite into it. So there's something called do you guys know what hipsters are? Sort of people who like to be quite outlandish and sort of outside of society, like to form things called like artisanal coffee shops where they focus on coffee's very important to them. They sort of make it in a very specific way with different flavors and blends and all that sort of stuff. So if you tend to go to what I would describe as more sort of liberal areas like Camden in London or Edinburgh or Shoreditch, which is also in London, they'll tend to drink a lot of coffee there, and you can sit down in coffee shops and chat to people instead of the pub. But it tends to be more of a slightly upper class thing, coffee drinking. I hope that's answered your question.
Well, okay. Thank you so much, Miss Judith, for your question. So, and then I think there's about only we also have to question again for you, Oliver, and then the next question is coming from Tina. Okay, this is my friend's chat on the WhatsApp application. So her question is really interesting. How we are as the Indonesian if we want to learn about the British accent, because actually she wants to know about the British accent while she want to study in the United Kingdom. So can you give the tips and tricks to us as the student in Indonesia to apply about the British accent to become easily adaptable in the United Kingdom? So how about you, Oliver?
I can try. So there's the thing with England is there's different accents for every different part of England. There's regional dialects tend to vary massively. So there's the standard English, which is how I sound and how Leo sounds. Leo's accent is a bit French, but it doesn't really sound like anything. You just pronounce the words very carefully. I'm not sure how to give tips on the Queen's English. Be very clear and precise. It doesn't matter if you talk a bit slower, as long as everything you say sort of sounds very pronounced. Whereas there's, for example, like a Welsh accent or a Liverpudlian accent is a bit more tricky to. There tends to be, if you pick some words, so if there's somewhere you want to sound like for example, you want to sound like you're from Wales, the phrase I always use is, I'm from Wales in the valleys. So you pick a particular phrase and then you do that accent, and you can sort of manage it that way. You know, it's you've got to pick specific phrases and repeat them over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And then, can you see how my voice changed there? It carries into the rest of your words. So I would say pick like 3 or 4 phrases or sentences that are quite easy to get from the accent you're trying to sound like, and then just repeat them, and you'll tend to get a hang of speaking like that for everything.
Okay.
That's my advice for it. I'd pick a couple of words and repeat them with the accent you're trying to get.
Okay. So, and then the next question is from Aji. Aji's question is, since we're on the topic of pub a while ago, got any favorite kind of beer, and what brand is your favorite beer?
Okay. I drink cider instead of beer, which is fermented fruit. I don't know if we found any cider in Indonesia, but my favorite brand of it is something called Thatcher's Gold, and it's a draft cider, so it's not like Copperberg or anything like that. It's not fruity. It's a lot closer to beer than fruity cider is. But it's called Thatcher's Gold, and it's a lovely drink. I love it. I would definitely recommend cider over beer, particularly if you don't drink a lot, because it tends to be nicer. It tends to be sweeter and easier to drink.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And then, okay, the next question is from, okay, Faton. Faton, do you have any questions to Oliver tonight? Just speak up to ask about your questions to Oliver tonight. Faton, where are you, Faton?
Oh, hello. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. So since we're talking about the pub, I mean, I've never been to a pub before, but have you ever heard about Iron Brew?
About what? Sorry.
Iron Brew. Iron Brew. I don't know if it's
Iron Brew. Yes.
quite famous, I think, around Scottish, and I don't know.
Yeah.
We kind of love it. Is it type of beer, or do you like it?
No, Iron Brew is a fizzy drink. It's not actually alcoholic. It's a bit like Fanta or Coke, but it's only
soda?
really popular in. Yeah, it's soda. It's only really popular in Scotland. People don't really drink it in England that much, but I have heard of it and I quite like it myself. But it's not alcoholic, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
No worries, mate.
Okay, the next question is from Winda Astuti. Winda question is, hi Oliver, I want to ask you, do you often find difficulties in understanding Indonesian when speaking in English? Because of course we probably make mistakes in pronunciation. Yeah, because you know that we have our own accent. You know, we are as the Japanese people, we have 625 of the local languages. We are not often to speak in English in our daily life. So
Yeah.
can you find some of the difficulties when you're understanding it of the Indonesians?
I do, but the point I would make, I suppose, is that you speak English a lot better than I speak Indonesian. So I wouldn't worry about it, because you can speak my language a lot better than I can speak your language. So you're doing amazing with it, frankly. It's just hard to understand, because it's sort of like sometimes I have difficulty understanding Leo because of his accent. It's just what it is. I do sometimes struggle, but generally I think I can understand you guys pretty well. You all speak English very well, actually. I would say you speak English better than some English people. So.
Wow. Okay, Miss Kusnu, do you have any question again to Oliver? I want to see you to speak up with Oliver again. Miss Kusnu, give your question again.
Okay. When you come to Indonesia, what is the something that you really cannot forget?
Oh, cannot forget. Me and my friend Leo climbed. What was the name of the mountain?
I think what's called in Bali, right? Or in Lombok? What is the name? In Bali,
Yeah.
when you were in Bali, right?
Yes, we climbed the mountain in Bali.
Batur Mount.
There you go. That's it.
Yep.
We watched the sunrise over that, and that was an amazing experience. I'm never going to forget that one. That was great. You've got a lot of natural beauty in Indonesia, which sadly we don't have quite as much about in England anymore because we've built on it a lot. we tend to knock things down like trees and stuff like that and build buildings there. Whereas in Indonesia, you know, it was really lovely to be able to go to a mountain and just sort of look out across natural land and see the sunrise over that mountain. That's something I'll never forget.
Okay, and then talk about food. It's about talk about the culinary in the British, in the United Kingdom. So actually, this is the question. Okay, this is the questions from Tina again. Okay, Tina's question is, you know that in Indonesia we have more than 7,000 of the local cuisines that was widespread from Sabang to Merauke. So how about the differences or the diversity of your local cuisines in the United Kingdom? So what is your special food in the United Kingdom? And also, can you tell us about the diversity of the local cuisines in the United Kingdom? Hmm.
Okay. Yep. So a lot of people around the world sort of joke that England's food is quite bad. Uh, Personally, I would say I love it actually myself. And so some local dishes, so famous for England, I suppose, fish and chips. Um, we You tend to get that more at the seaside, but you can get quite good fish and chips in places in London as well. They're battered in oil, and that's really lovely. It's usually it tends to be cod. I don't know if you have cod in Indonesia or not, but it's a specific type of fish that we make fish and chips from. Something called, we call it bangers and mash, but it's sausages and mashed potato. That's another famous one we like to eat. We're quite fond of pies, so things like steak and kidney pie, or ploughman's pie, which is cheese and pickles. British cuisine, again, it tends to be very, very varied in the cities because we've got such a combination of other cultures' foods as well. So there is areas in London where you'll get, in London particularly, which is what I talk about because it's mostly where I'm from, it's also the same in most of the major cities like Manchester and Liverpool and Edinburgh and all that sort of stuff. But you can pretty much get any kind of food you'd like. So you can go there and you can get Indonesian food, you can get Chinese food, you can get burgers, American food, pizza, pasta. The cuisine options in England are endless. You can go around and get pretty much whatever type of food you'd like if you're willing to look hard enough.
Amazing, so diverse of the food and also cuisines in the United Kingdom, and really amazing. So, and then the next question is from Miss Zahro. Miss Zahro, speak up to ask about your questions to Oliver tonight. This is the time is yours, Miss Zahro.
She already have the. Oh, never mind.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Quite there. Hi, Oliver.
Hello.
So I recall that the last time I was at UK, it was at early 2000s. If I having the plan to visit UK again, what will you suggest me to do? Like for socializing with the youngster there, other than pub probably?
So the question, what are the tips for socializing with younger people other than the pub?
Yeah.
Sports are a very good way to do it, as Leo said. So joining a sports club. There's a lot of sort of organizations and clubs and things that you can join in England. Like we've got youth clubs where you could volunteer as a worker. There's like people who are into rowing, so you can go to a boats club, or football. Sports tends to be a really good one. Music, people tend to go to festivals a lot, music festivals, or there's like areas where people of a certain mindset will hang out. So people who are really into skating, you know, young kids will hang out in skate parks and all sort of just do that together. You could go there and try your hand at that. Any way you want to, really. There's one thing that's really great about England is the amount of opportunity. So if there's a way that you want to hang out with someone, you can probably find it. You can take them to the pub, the club, the football match, the park, you know, whatever you want to do, you can do it. So, but I would say that the best ways to socialize with particularly younger people would be through schools, through like schemes that they've set up to help kids interact with things like youth clubs and sports.
I see.
I hope.
Like, do youngsters enjoy going to cinema there?
Pardon?
Do youngsters there enjoy going to cinema?
Yes, cinemas. People go to the cinema a lot. Most areas in the cities will have with cinemas. In towns and stuff like that, there may only be one, or there may not be a cinema. But in the cities, you'll find a lot of places to go to the movies, and there's a lot of. So one thing I would recommend for everyone in this chat and everyone here who visits England, there's a website called Time Out London, and it will give you a list of all of the places that you can go and all the activities you can do, and it will give you information about like where they are and what times they're open and all this sort of stuff. If you just sort of ask around for like information on where things are, like the cinema or the park, or I want to get into running or cycling or whatever, there's a lot of information around on the internet, and people will just direct you to what they know. So they'll say, oh yeah, there's a cinema down the road down there, you just walk 20 minutes in that direction and you'll be at the cinema, or that's how you join that club or whatever.
Thank you for the information, Oliver.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Zahra, for your questions. And Oliver, we go to the last questions from Miss Isti, and her question is about how that we could improve and also start to speak in English fluently, especially in the British accent, because actually we are Indonesians, not often to use about the English in our daily conversation. So how that we could start to learn English from very basic and make it as a habit while we want to improve about our English speaking ability. Can you give a tips and tricks to her?
Yeah. Okay. One thing I would say is reading. What taught me a lot of my vocabulary and sort of how to formulate sentences and words and how to speak properly was by reading books and reading sentences written in English. Having conversations is really the only way to make yourself fluent in it. Is sort of, you can talk to yourself, but you've just got to practice speaking it aloud all of the time. And don't be nervous or shy about it. If there's an English person and you ask them, could you practice English with me? Could you talk with me? Don't be worried about getting it wrong. As I said to you earlier in the chat, you guys speak English a lot better than most English people will speak Indonesian. So it's just practice really is my only advice on that. Again, the same with the accents. Maybe find specific words or phrases and repeat them over and over and over until they sound perfectly clear.
Okay, so thank you so much, Oliver, for your explanation, also for your time to sharing all of the very amazing information to us about the British cultures. And that's about our last questions to Oliver's sessions tonight. And thank you so much, Oliver, for your time to give us your a lot of the very amazing stories from the British cultures. So, guys, say thank you to Oliver. Say thank you. Say thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Oliver.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you, Leo and Oliver.
Thank you, Leo and also Oliver, for your time
Thank you.
to sharing session in the sharing
Thank
session
you
to
so
us.
much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Oliver from Jakarta State University.
Yeah, thank you guys as well for coming.
Yeah, cheers for having us.
Maybe you can go to Jakarta.
That'd be nice. If you have
Yeah,
any
we'll come
invites,
back.
Yeah, Teguh will be your guide.
Just let
Okay.
just let the COVID go away, and then you can come back to Indonesia and let's spend the time together to Karimun Jawa or maybe Bali.
Yeah,
Another
definitely.
series,
Okay.
yeah, another series,
Yeah.
Oliver and Leo. I'm gonna wait for you.
We'll teach you how to drink, like in England.
No motorbike crashes this time.
Oh no, man. Oh, England, man. Okay, next time. I hope so.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Oliver, and also Leo, for your time to us. So, guys, the conclusion is the United Kingdom or British culture are
Et sur un sujet qui avait rien à voir. J'étais au téléphone, hein, j'étais pas. C'est pour ça en fait, j'étais au téléphone et j'étais pas dans le salle.
and absolutely it is really fun to know about the British cultures, and it is some of the similarities between the Indonesian and also the British cultures, so you can find it if you want to go to the United Kingdom, because in the United Kingdom I think that's also about the Chinatown and also a lot of the Asians people out there, and I think we can find easily about the similarities between us and also the United Kingdom peoples. So and then the next is it means all of the people around the world are really diverse, like in the United Kingdom, like also in Indonesia. We have to build our the concept of the understanding about the culture, or we have to respect in each other. And absolutely for you guys, if you want to study abroad or if you want to continue your own study in the United Kingdom, just prepare yourself not only about your TOEFL score, but also to improve about your English in the form of the very specific is about the British accents, because it will make you totally different if you want after go back to after you will go back to Indonesia again. And yeah, it means Great Britain and also the United Kingdom or London or England, Wales, Scotland are totally diverse, but they are the motherland of English. So it means it will be very interesting for us if you want to learn and also if you want to continue our study out there. So guys, go back to MC.
All right, thank you so much, all of you, for attending. Now, before we finish up, please don't forget to fill out the attendance list. I already spammed the link in the chat, so again, please don't forget. And I think that's all. Thank you so much to Oliver and Leo for attending our little seminar here, and thank you for everyone, all the attendants, for coming to this, coming along. And
You're very welcome. Thank you. I've got to go now. See you guys.
see you, mate.
Thank you.
I think that's all from us, and thank you. And all right, so second photo session. So please, if you can turn on your camera, I'm gonna take another pictures.
Open up your mic, open up your camera, guys, because this is our last photo session.
All right, just give me a minute. All right, give me a minute. One. All right. Shoot, give me a minute. Nice. Okay, one more. Just let me save
Ouais,
this
là, je t'entends.
first.
Parfait. C'est arrivé. Ah bah voilà, c'est pour ça en fait. Je me disais, qu'est-ce que j'ai
All right,
encore
that's
pété de
all.
mon
Thank you
côté?
so much for attending our little seminar, and I hope you'll be okay. And goodbye and good night.
Alors, c'est
Guys, thank you so much, Leo and Oliver. Thank you so
que
much.
Don't
Bye.
forget about the attendance list.
Leo, stay healthy ya. Stay healthy and keep healthy and keep content.
Easy guys. Take care.
Yeah, I'm
Bye.
gonna give you the link for the record ya.